when you look at the imperial state crown, you see this incredible symbol of monarchy, right? A breathtaking collection of jewels. But if you look past all that, what you're really seeing is a monumental feat of engineering. So today, we're going to dig into how you actually build something this heavy, this complex, and this iconic.
So, where does it all start? Well, not quietly, that's for sure. It begins with a roar of just intense heat. To even begin shaping the golden frame, goldsmiths have to get a special gold alloy up to nearly 1,000 degrees Celsius. Just imagine that, turning solid metal into a glowing, liquid-like material ready to be forged.
And what exactly is that frame holding up? Well, get a load of this number: 2,868 diamonds. Every single one of them needs its own perfect, totally secure setting. It basically turns the crown into this brilliant constellation where every star has to be placed with absolute precision. And all of that, the gold, the thousands of gems, it really adds up. The finished crown weighs over a kilogram. Now, to put that in perspective, try to imagine balancing 2 big bags of sugar on your head. That's the challenge, not just for the engineers who build it, but for the monarch who has to wear it.
Right, because this isn't just any old crown. This is the one worn by Queen Elizabeth II at every state opening of Parliament. It's where art, centuries of tradition, and the very real physics of high-stakes engineering all come together in one object.
And you know, even though the idea of a crown is ancient, this specific imperial state crown is actually a modern marvel. It was commissioned back in 1937 for King George VI. So it's a very unique, specifically engineered object with its own story.
And that story, well, it starts way before anyone even thinks about lighting a forge. It all begins with the blueprint, where designers have to solve these huge challenges of weight and balance and tradition before a single gram of gold is ever touched.
Think about the checklist they have to work through. It's an incredible balancing act. First off, it has to be visually majestic, just awe-inspiring. It also has to incorporate specific historic gemstones. Then it has to stick to traditional designs. But the frame has to be structurally sound so it doesn't, collapse. And on top of all that, a human being has to actually be able to wear it.
So how do they pull this off? They actually blend the old with the new. They still use these incredibly detailed technical drawings, a tradition that's centuries old, to map out every single dimension and angle. But now they supplement that with computer-aided design, or CAD. This lets them build a 3D model and see exactly how the light will bounce off thousands of facets before a single stone is ever set.
Okay, so we're moving from the quiet precision of the drawing board to the forge. And this is where things get really dramatic and physical. The process of turning raw gold into the crown's strong, yet somehow impossibly graceful structure.
Now you might think you'd use pure 24-karat gold, right? The best of the best, but you can't. It would just be too soft, it would bend under its own weight. So instead, the craftspeople use a 22-karat alloy. It's still mostly gold, of course, but it's mixed with other metals to give it the hardness and the structural integrity it needs to support all those priceless gems.
And the way they build it is just a masterclass. First, you've got that intense heating we talked about. Then, the base, the circlet, is forged. That means it's repeatedly heated and hammered, which actually makes the metal stronger. After that, the elegant arches are shaped. And finally, all the pieces are joined together using high-temperature brazing, which creates seams that are almost as strong as the gold itself.
So once that golden skeleton is built, the work shifts from this big, heavy engineering to something incredibly precise and delicate. We're talking about the immense task of setting thousands of gemstones, one by one. Just look at this breakdown. It really shows you what they're up against. Yeah, the vast majority are diamonds and pearls, but the crown also holds dozens of other historic gems: sapphires, emeralds, rubies. The thing is, every single one of these stones, no matter how small, has a unique shape, and that means each one needs a custom-made setting. And right there, front and center, sitting in the place of honor, is the crown's most famous resident, a diamond so massive and so important it actually has its own name, the second star of Africa.
Yeah, 317 carats. This single stone was cut from the famous Cullinan diamond. It's an engineering marvel all by itself, and its incredible weight has to be perfectly supported by the crown's frame.
But it's not the only piece of history in there. I mean, this thing is basically a wearable museum. You've got St. Edward's sapphire, which is believed to have been worn in a king's ring way back in the 11th century. Then there's the Black Prince's ruby, which, fun fact, is actually a massive red spinel. and it dates back to the 1300s. Each gem connects the crown to a really deep and complicated history.
All right, so the frame is forged. The thousands of stones are set. Now comes the final and maybe the most human challenge of all, engineering this thing so that a person can actually wear it. And honestly, who could explain that challenge better than Queen Elizabeth II herself? Now, obviously she's not being 100% literal here, but she's making a really important point about the very real physical strain involved. That weight is just a constant, dominating presence. So, to make it manageable, the designers built in some really clever solutions that you might not even notice. There's a soft ermine band for cushioning. That iconic purple velvet cap, it's not just for looks, it actually helps spread that kilogram of weight evenly across the head. And then, hidden inside, there are internal braces that add crucial strength and stop the frame from warping over time.
So in the end, you realize the crown is so much more than just the sum of its parts. It's a legacy. And its value? Well, you can measure in carats and kilograms, but its true worth lies somewhere else entirely.
I mean, if you just tried to add up the market value of the gold and the thousands of gemstones, you'd land on a figure that's just staggering, well over 100 million pounds. It's a truly mind-boggling amount for a single object. But here's the thing, that number, as huge as it is almost meaningless. The crown's real value, as a symbol of history, of culture, of national identity, is simply incalculable. You just can't put a price tag on an object that's witnessed centuries of history from a monarch's perspective.
And every single element of the design is just packed with meaning. The crosses you see symbolize faith. The fleur-de-lis, those are a nod to ancient history. And the four arches that curve and meet at the very top, they're a powerful symbol of sovereignty. The whole thing is a story told in gold and jewels.
Which, leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about for the future. As technology gets more and more advanced, will the next great crowns still be forged by hand to preserve all that tradition? Or could they one day be 3D printed, maybe from carbon fiber, and set with lab-grown gems to achieve a whole new kind of perfection? It's a question that really pits the weight of history against the lightness of the future.